So we are getting into this stream. Okay, guys, looks like we're live here, UTA Planetarium. Welcome, everyone. My name is Jim Bader. I'm the UTA's Planetarium program coordinator. So my job really is everything. I do all kinds of stuff at the Planetarium, from creating content, to producing shows, to presenting shows, to fixing a projector, you name it. But I also have to say, as a fan of space, all things space, I love rocket technology. I love watching rockets go into space. I love watching all the space technology that's involved with it, International Space Station stuff, you name it. And we had a historic, fantastic launch today. It was successful, and we have a lot to talk about, a whole lot to talk about. We were hoping to do this with you guys earlier in the week, but as many of you know, we kind of failed at that. But we get to do it today. So we're going to cover all these things. It is a Saturday, and it's a much more relaxed environment, I think, right? Anyway, let's go ahead and get to the good stuff. So today we had our SpaceX Demo 2 launch. Fantastic success as far as we can see. The booster landed. It was a success. And I thought I could talk about this, but I think it would be way more fun if, instead of me talking about this, I were to bring in somebody whose interests align much more directly with a launch. So we reached out to our in-house UTA graduate student, who is a graduate student in aerospace engineering, Jennifer, and I thought it'd be really cool if we brought her in here. So without further ado, everyone, meet Jennifer Jones, our UTA aerospace graduate student. We're going to bring her in to talk. Yeah, tell us who you are.
I'm Jennifer Jones. I'm actually a student assistant slash educator at the UTA Planetarium, and I'm also an aerospace engineering graduate student for the Department of Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering at UTA.
Nice, yeah. Jennifer has been with us really since nearly as long as I've been at UTA. I've been at UTA for about 3 years now, and my first hiring of student assistants was with Jennifer. So we got to hire her, and I can tell you that I was so fortunate to have you, Jennifer, come in. You have been a huge help, not only with the day-to-day tedious stuff that we do, from ticket taking to counting money, but also you transitioned really quickly and smoothly into an educator. And it's exciting to watch you move into a planetarium environment, especially coming from aerospace engineering. I was a little nervous not having a physics background person in there, but getting an aerospace engineering student has done wonders. And I'm going to be honest, it seems like some of my best people are from aerospace engineering in the planetarium. Engineers good at explaining things? I guess so.
You work really hard, and that's the main thing.
You definitely do. There's no doubt about that. Anyway, so yeah, let's jump into some interesting questions about you. Before we start talking about this launch directly, we're going to give people time to log in and join us in this conversation. Shout out to everybody who's watching, by the way. If you have questions, you want to have a conversation with us, drop some comments. Now, if you have something you want to ask Jennifer, you'd like her to be able to address directly, a real person who understands this rocket launching stuff, drop it in the comments. We'll answer those when we can, and we'll answer them to the best that we can. So please, yeah, interact with us. That's what we're here for. This is what this is. It's a conversation. So back to you, Jennifer. I would like you to introduce yourself a little bit. You're an aerospace engineering student, but is that all? I mean, is there some possible chance that at some point in your life you wanted to be Indiana Jones? Your last name is Jones.
That's actually true. So archaeology is actually one of my second favorite passions. I love archaeology. I watch Expedition Unknown whenever I can.
Convenient.
I never plan on changing my name because eventually I want a PhD, mostly just to be called Dr. Jones, because I think it's very important, and I will have a fedora.
Good. Well, good for you either way, however that works out. But it's outside of actually kind of wanting to be Indiana Jones. What made you get interested? I mean, how did you get to where you are? If you want to give us a briefer on that, I'd really appreciate it.
Well, honestly, my interest for space started when I was very little. It's very hard to remember because I was that little. I remember going to Disney World with my family, and we got to go to Kennedy Space Center, KSC, and we actually watched Columbia launch, the 2003 Columbia launch, from about 5 miles away on the Banana River. And from then on out, it just sort of, I don't know what happened, it just sort of changed, and I was just interested in space from then on out.
Wow. That's exciting that you got to watch Columbia launch. I'm very envious. I do have to say that as much as space has always been something that was, in the front of my view of what I wanted to do, I didn't get to see any launch at all until I was maybe 23 years old, and saw it under very interesting circumstances. But I did get to see it. It was a 515. So it was really neat to see, and there were so many things about it that were exactly like I'd hoped, but I am certainly envious, Jennifer. You got to see a space shuttle launch. Good for you.
Thankful for my family, because without them, I would not be here.
I will say that is something that certainly solidifies interest in space stuff and rocket launches, is seeing something like that is like fuel. The awe and the excitement that surrounds a rocket launch. You have all these people here who that are watching it, that like their interest is there, like this is their thing. They showed up, they went out of their way to watch this rocket launch, and then you see it first, right? You see the launch and the light coming out of the bottom of the rocket it's just blinding. It's crazy bright. It's like watching a welder or something. It's how it feels. You're not supposed to do that, just for the record.
Yeah,
but,
no, don't do that.
You can't help but see it for at least a moment, and then it goes up, and you're like, "Wow!" It's way up in the air. I can barely see it, and then the sound hits you, right? And the break between those of "Wow, that was cool," the sound hitting you, it just makes for, such a crazy, incredible, moving experience to see something like that. And I can certainly understand how that would solidify you wanting to pursue something like this. No doubt.
Yes.
It did for me.
I definitely recommend whoever's watching, if you've never seen a launch, I recommend go watching one, because it is really a life-changing experience.
Maybe not right now. We're trying to social distance.
Not now.
Okay.
Either.
Neato. Okay, so let's get into some more interesting stuff here. You introduced us to yourself. You talked about what got you to this point, and I think it's okay for us to ask you some important questions.
Okay.
About this. So I do have to get to some little sillier questions first. I think they're going to be more important for the viewers to listen to, but I want to jump into them. So let's go ahead. And we got somebody in the comments that said the sound and smell of jet fuel is remarkable.
Yes, I agree. I love it.
I don't recall the smell of that, but the sound, sounds from jets, sounds from rockets, that sound is crazy. I live just underneath I don't know if it's a highway lane for the NASGRB, but the rocket or the jet engines over the roof of my house are insane. And then the big bombers flying, I'm scared it's going to happen right now, if I'm being honest. While I'm trying to be live, there's going to be a huge plane flying over my head, one of those big bombers, and it just rattles everything in my house.
Lucky decided it was time.
Yeah. Anyway, definitely, Russell, the sound and smell of jet fuel. Space people. It's nice to have space people here listening, or aerospace people, the aero part, right? Anyway, let's go ahead and do some more questions. We got a bunch of questions for you. So, how do you feel about these new spacesuits? I need to know, Jennifer.
Honestly, I love them. I think they're so cool. Not only are they really good for astronauts, of course, there's actually a whole department just focused on the design of a spacesuit. The look of them is amazing. It really does feel like we are going into the future with these spacesuits.
They look a little comical to me, if I'm being honest. But we needed to change. We got to change. I'm happy that there is some change there. I'm not bad about it. Really like it. It's cool to see, but the spacesuits, they sometimes to me, I was looking at them like, okay, it's new. If it works, if it keeps them safe, if it keeps them being able to communicate with people, I'll take it. I think it's a good thing.
Yes.
It's a good thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's find some more questions. I don't want to go too crazy on you with some ridiculous questions, but I do want to mix it up a little bit because these are people. So let's talk about the people. We launched humans into space. This is a crewed launch, which means we had humans actually in there. And I did have the immediate question for myself, which was, why wasn't there female on board? But maybe another way to ask this question with a little bit of comedy. We'll get to that question in a moment. Both Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley have got spouses who are also astronauts. So their wives are astronauts. The Apollo era spawned things like the Astronauts Wives Club. Do you think it's time for there to be an Astronauts Husbands Club? And should these two start it?
I 100% think so. I think it'd be amazing. I think that if there was a movie to come out, that you heard it here first, and I think we should get part of the cut for that because it was our idea. So just think about that.
Good. And maybe we need to write that. That's I don't know if we should.
A UTA Planetarium production.
We should have a conversation after this about
yes.
that. But on a real note, why do you know why there wasn't a woman, or why they didn't choose a female to be one of the astronauts in this launch? Do you have any words to talk about that?
Well, so there actually is a woman that's part of the original 4-class crew, not just of the Dragon, but also of Boeing's Starliner. Her name's Sunny Williams. I love her. I would love to meet her someday. But specifically for this mission, these two are actually highly, highly experienced. They've been on 2 previous space shuttle missions, with Doug Hurley actually being on the STS-135, the final mission. And on top of that, there was... Behnken was a flight test engineer, and Hurley was a flight test pilot, so they really have the experience in trying to figure out big problems. So if something went wrong, they would be able to react very quickly.
Wow. Well, yeah, I understand that. I guess, realistically, you should say that you should pick the best candidate, right, to do something.
Yes.
Not necessarily, we need representation of females in space. There's no doubt about that. But you don't necessarily choose female just because of that. But either way, thank you for your comment on that. It's important. Anyway, SpaceX may be launching first, right? We saw this launch from SpaceX, but we know, as you just mentioned, so to extend your answer, Boeing also plans to do the same thing. Do you think? Do you see Boeing trying to one-up SpaceX in this launch somehow? I don't know how they would, but do you see them trying to say, hey, we've been doing space stuff longer and we're going to do it better?
I honestly hope they will, because a lot of the reason why I love space is it's a competition. It's a friendly competition on trying to be the best. And so if Boeing one-up SpaceX, that probably means SpaceX will also one-up Boeing, as we have seen Elon Musk do in the past with a Tesla and a Falcon 9. And so I think it's really important that they try to do better, because that's what's going to really spark a friendly competition between the two companies, and possibly more.
I think I would enjoy the competition only because it would push innovation farther and faster, right?
Yes,
and that's good for us as space enthusiasts, and also good for you because that means more jobs. So
yes, more jobs will be made.
Win either way. Anyway, so last week I have to, earlier in the week, it's not last week, but we incorrectly used the term aborted in our post, and I have to say that was my fault. It was me. Anyway, what the correct term was, what happened earlier in the week when they didn't launch the rocket, is that it was scrubbed. Launch was scrubbed. I knew better than that. If I'm being honest with you, I did know better. When I was making the graphic, it just seemed exciting to write aborted. But when we say scrubbed, can you tell us where that term came from? And if you don't know, which is fine, is there any physical scrubbing involved in this?
So I'm not sure where the term scrubbed came from. It's been around since before I was born. and I haven't had the time to research it. But there is no physical scrubbing at all. The term scrubbed is just another word for delayed. And so if a launch is scrubbed, that could be due to weather, like we've seen last time, or something's wrong with the rocket itself, or anything like that. And so it's just basically another term for we're delaying it.
Okay, we'll accept that. That'll be a fine answer, I suppose. Anyway, yeah, that was my mistake that I made. It happens, right? So this launch was important and it was exciting, but I want you to tell me and tell us, the viewers here, why is this launch in particular important?
Well, first off, it is the first launch on American soil in 9 years from the end of the Space Shuttle program, which is really important because it's good to have
crewed
our own.
launch, right?
Yes, crewed launch. We have regular payload missions all the time. We actually have a whole other family of tons of families of rockets that we actually use. But this is the first man-crewed launch, which means if this starts a new space era, we're going to be able to start sending more and more and more people to the ISS. I know Bridenstine talked about actually creating another space station for more science experiments. And so it's going to be really important, and it will hopefully start a whole new space era.
Nice. Okay, so we talked about why these astronauts were chosen. You said that they had tons of experience and their jobs and what they had done for NASA and for the Air Force and for the Marines, or I'm not sure exactly. I don't think Air Force is he was the Air Force and Marines. Do they have a specific mission with this? With these new rockets that they're using, or crewed missions?
So this particular mission actually is the final flight test mission, as long as everything goes okay. So it basically really resembles STS-1, the very first space shuttle mission, where it's like, okay, well, we have everything ready. Let's try it. Let's see what happens. So they'll be on the ISS for either 1 to 4 months. It's not an indefinite time. They'll figure it out once they actually get to the ISS. But we know that it can dock. We know that it can undock. But now it's time to test it with the people.
Test it with the people. That's such a scary thing, I think.
It is.
I can't imagine being in Elon Musk's shoes when he has to give that, yeah, we are going to do this incredibly dangerous thing, and
yes,
and SpaceX and Elon Musk, they have to say, okay, yeah, we're going to launch them. That no matter how hard you work and how much you prepare and get yourself ready for this, that's got to be nerve-wracking in no way, and no way is that easy. So this is the Falcon 9 rocket, as you mentioned. They've been launching the Falcon 9 rocket successfully for a long time.
Yes.
Tons and tons of successes, a couple failures, albeit space is hard, so what do you expect?
Yes.
But what makes this different, this rocket really different from, say, Soyuz, which I think is a proven, tested rocket? The Russians have been using that almost exact same rocket since before America was launching humans into space.
Yes. So the Soyuz is very well proven, very well done rocket. However, it's not reusable. And reusability is extremely important in a rocket because it saves both time and money. So basically, every time they want to launch the Soyuz, they have to build a new one every single launch. And so that costs so much money and so much time to do. But with reusability, it'll be, if it works out, which it clearly is for SpaceX and the Falcon 9, it could potentially become like an airplane, where we reuse airplanes all the time. And so we
don't just fly an airplane and then just crash it into the ground when we're done?
No. We don't do that. That would not be good. But reusability, we would be able to use it almost at the same time, which means potentially for like space tourism, the ticket prices would go way, way, way down to where it's like...
That means I can go to space?
Oh, yes, that means both of us can go to space.
I don't know if I mean, I would say if somebody offered me that, I do have to, if they said, hey, would you like to ride on a rocket in space? And I had plenty of time to think about it. It's still like, gosh, what a stressful question that would be. Mostly because I'm terrified of heights. I mean, like, just looking out a second-story window makes my knees buckle. So the idea of being, 250 miles straight up in the air is not, that does not sound quite fun to me. I would probably say yes, and then just it's like going on a roller coaster, you know.
Yeah,
I
just scream.
know I'm going to be scared, but it's like I really want to experience this. I'll just accept it.
You just scream the whole time. It's okay.
Okay. So you said there's lots of reasons why it's reusable. You also talked a little bit about what makes it reusable. But if you want to just expand on how it's like completely reusable, also in a way, like if it's reusable, why weren't the rockets before it reusable, and why aren't all rockets reusable? Why on earth have we been launching these things and just letting them slap back on the earth or in the ocean?
Well, so that's actually a good question, and I'll try to keep it brief because you can go really in depth with this. But really, what makes this reusable, it's still partially reusable. The whole rocket is not technically fully reusable. However, the first stage, as we saw today, it landed. And so there might be some minimal parts that need to be replaced, but the big, expensive parts do not need to be replaced. They're good to go on another mission. Currently, Crew Dragon is not reusable. However, that is being tested with a few other options, including a giant net to catch it. And currently, that actually may work. So, you know, the simplest things might actually work. Regarding why it hasn't been before, it's honestly because the development cost of finding reusable technology is very expensive. But in the end, it actually pushes down the other two costs, operation and production, which makes it much better. Because as we know, SpaceX, now I don't know the exact number because it's a private company, so they don't have to share their finances with us. But we do know that their customer cost is much less than a lot of other places. And so they're actually undercutting most people. And they were able to do that because they decided to take the time and effort to research reusability. And so especially during the space race, our idea was like, I don't really care if it's reusable. We want to get to the moon first. And so they tried to make rockets to do that, and they succeeded with the Saturn V rocket. And so now it's really, if we change it and we put it more on reusability, that means we're going to have more access to space than we have ever before.
It sounds like a good plan to me. I'm glad to hear it, no doubt about that. And when you have innovation and you have competition and you see there, you know, this is a good thing. Clearly, it helped push us forward. Anyway, so we have a lot of things to go into, more difficult things that may be more boring, but I want to do something a little ridiculous, Jennifer.
Okay.
Before this meeting, I told you we were going to give you some standard questions, you know,
yes.
as we already have, but I also did warn you there were going to be some
yes.
more ridiculous questions. So I watched the stream today. I watched the stream last time, and I watched many rocket launch streams before. So I just want to, if it's okay, talk about something I saw that made me a little nervous, and maybe you can clear it up, because if somebody else saw it, what if they were nervous too and they thought, I can't believe this? So I do have to say, looking at this image, why are there ninjas behind the astronauts?
Well, Jim, ninjas are very important for a launch because there might be some people trying to sabotage it. So we have to have ninjas to protect the astronauts.
Well,
that's why.
I can't believe that NASA would hire ninjas. Would you like to maybe fix what you said?
Yes, ninja. These are not actually ninjas. They are actually part of the pad team. They're there to help Doug and Bob get into the Crew Dragon, make sure everything's okay, and they have to seal the Crew Dragon up for them. So they're there to help the astronauts.
So they don't carry swords?
No, they do not carry swords.
Do you know if they know karate?
They might. I'm not sure. I don't know who they are. Right. Maybe we'll have to invite them over one time, and we'll have to discuss.
I'll try to get them in for the next interview.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't know how it's going to go. All right. Next image I want to bring up to you. This is a really important question, too. So we watched here in this image, Elon Musk and Jim Bridenstine. They were kind of saying the final, like, you know, good luck, Godspeed to the astronauts here. This is actually from Tuesday. And I was looking at this image and I thought, I know that it's dangerous to be an astronaut, but what happened to the astronaut behind Elon Musk and Jim Bridenstine?
Well, unfortunately, there was a lot of stuff that occurred. First off, he was filled with helium, and unfortunately, he was popped and
it looks flat.
Yeah. No, that's actually just an extra Extra suit.
Okay. I assumed that would be the case. Hey, it's just an extra suit, no big deal, whatever. But I couldn't help but laugh at how ridiculous that looks behind them. It's like
Yeah.
laid out so nicely on the table there. You can see they even have a helmet placed there, and also it was a little confusing. I wondered maybe if it's a backup suit for a backup astronaut for some reason. If there's like a very last minute catastrophe, they got to switch astronauts, and they just
Yes.
have it there on hand. But I just thought, why is it laid out so nicely? Helmet placed. Helmets are designed custom made. Everything in the suit is custom made,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
It fits that astronaut precisely, just like the chairs and so on and so forth. Yeah, Jair says, "Pop the bubble." That astronaut
Yes.
got popped. There's no doubt about that.
Well, if you think of it this way, would it look better all laid out, or would it look better like dirty laundry?
All right. They can hang it
Yeah.
up, right? Could they hang it up? Could you go in a closet, maybe? I don't know. Whatever. It doesn't matter. It's a little ridiculous. I knew this was ridiculous. I definitely wanted to bring it up for fun purposes. Anyway, let's get back to some more Ian detailed questions about stuff moving forward. So we are now finally able to, at least everything that I've seen so far in the live stream, we have successfully launched humans into space from America,
Yes.
from American soil, on American rockets, for the first time since STS-135. What's the future of this rocket? And I mean, this rocket has been used for many things, but what's the future of human, or I'll say crewed spaceflight in the United States?
Well, regarding this rocket in particular, this was really just a stepping stone for SpaceX. So this was like, let's get us to the ISS and see what happens. But as you may know, they are actually working on a rocket called the Starship, and that is its actual name. Unfortunately, a prototype did blow up last night. Not sure if
I
you
was going to
saw.
make that comment. I don't think that's going, at least
Well,
it wasn't.
there's a lot of rockets that fail during testing, but that's why we have testing, right? When things go wrong, we want it to go wrong there. But SpaceX, they want to go beyond just the ISS. They want to go to the moon. They want to go to Mars. They want to go to Jupiter and beyond. And so currently, that's what we're looking at there. Regarding in full, the craziest thing about this was a private company. So this is not government funded. They act as a regular company. They're getting paid and they're making profit to be able to keep launching, and say they are self-sufficient. And so it doesn't matter the next 20 years regarding NASA. It matters what SpaceX is doing right now. And same with a bunch of other private companies that are starting up as well.
Agreed. It's a dangerous thing. It's tough. It's hard.
Yes.
And there's lots and lots of failures. I remember seeing the first video that SpaceX released where they had the hopper. It was the
Yep.
prototype for the Falcon 9 to be able to land itself.
Mm-hmm.
And watching that thing do its very first jump, which was so small, I don't, maybe it was 100 meters, if that, just straight up. And then seeing it go really high when they had like nearly 1,000 meters high, and now we see it like it's just like almost it's a second nature thing now. The rocket goes up, it breaks in half of it lands. It's so exciting to see. But space, like you said, is hard, it's dangerous. Why do we send humans? And is this really like safe to continue sending humans into space?
Yes, so while there's always risks when it comes to rocket launches, there's never not a risk. They go through so many precautions to make sure that it will be as safe as possible. Regarding just the Falcon 9, NASA actually put forth specific rules to SpaceX, and they actually did one better. And so they tried to make it even more safe. They looked at previous failures, and they did their best to try to make sure that it was as safe as it could possibly get. And as we saw, even with the weather the other day, which is another really good reason why they would have to delay and not launch, we saw that everything went according to plan. It was all perfect. And so it was very, very nicely done.
Nice. Okay. So we've kind of gone through most of the questions I prepared. We still, or that we've prepared. We still have a few to go through here. But one question that comes up, we see these 2 astronauts go into space. We know they're going to be sending more astronauts to space in the future. I mean, this was a success as far as we can tell now. I think they don't dock with the International Space Station until tomorrow morning. Is that what they said?
They said 19 hours from a little after launch.
Okay, so that's tomorrow.
Yeah.
They don't actually dock with it, and there's still some more things that needs to go through for it to, I think, to be a total success, landing, so on and so forth. But as we see more and more of these astronauts leave from American soil, it makes people wonder if you're younger, or maybe you're 20 and you're thinking, that looks awesome and I want to go to space. Can you give us an answer on how you become an astronaut?
Well, first off, you have to have a master's degree, and you've had to have 2 years of experience in that. You also have to be able to complete a physical evaluation by NASA.
That means you have to run?
Yes, you have to run. You have to do push-ups. It's crazy. I know. It's just very difficult. But really, in terms, it doesn't have to be like we're used to. They usually did fighter pilots. As long as you're in a STEM degree, you have the proper experience, you have what you want, you're in good physical shape, then you're able to apply, and you can go ahead and apply on the NASA website. And I haven't looked at it, but I assume pretty much for any kind of astronaut, I know NASA really supplies them currently right now. It'll probably be roughly the same. And you have to have a STEM degree. Unfortunately, you cannot have a degree in English and go up unless you're doing space tourism.
Well, good. That you guys heard it here first, folks. Go to school and be healthy,
Yes.
I guess.
Yes.
No, not I guess. Be healthy. Go to school. Learn stuff. And this may be biased, but study science stuff. Study STEM stuff.
Study engineering.
We're natural at it anyway. Humans are natural at this. Well, the running stopped me from pursuing an astronaut dream. I can maybe understand that.
Don't worry. Don't forget about space tourism. That's a very near possibility in the future.
Get extremely wealthy and then go. Let's see. Any other questions I think I might want to ask? So when I first heard about this, we're sending, Americans to space on American soil with American rockets, which means we don't have to pay another government to send us to space. Not that there's a problem with that, but we don't have to send another government to space. And if we don't have to send another government or pay another government to send us to space, does that mean that we are no longer going to be paying Russia to send us to space? I thought, could that have a negative impact on Russia's space agency? Now, I did read, at least it was an older article saying that we would still be sending astronauts on the Soyuz rocket. Do you know anything about that?
I think I actually may have read that exact same article the other day. I think it's still very possible. We usually try to go with different countries. So we've had people from JAXA, we've had people from ESA, we've had other people go up into space with us, even Canada.
Yeah, this is a human thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Russia, yeah. So Russia may pay for us to go, may pay for them to go on our rockets, or we may pay to go on their rockets. It might be all of it, because in the end, space is a humankind adventure. It's not for one person or the other. It is for humanity as a whole.
I agree. Certainly, I know that with the space shuttles, we had people from all countries getting on the space shuttle constantly.
Yes.
A lot more seats in a space shuttle, but
7 seats.
we were filling those up with people not just from America. And in fact, I want to. It's maybe jumping out there. There were probably far more missions with people from other countries than there were people only from America. There may have. I'm going to guess there was a handful probably of missions that were only Americans. Maybe the ones that were handled by DoD were mostly.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of those.
Yes.
Very interesting either way. But this also means I'm guessing that we're still paying, we're paying an American company, funneling money back into us. It feels weird always saying that, though, because like you said, I agree. Spaceflight is a human thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, unfortunately, things cost money. If we could all do it for free, I think that would probably be amazing, but unfortunately, that's not happening. But thankfully, what we're paying for, NASA is not paying for that rocket. Now, NASA's still building the SLS. I still see high hopes in the future, hopefully, for the SLS. But currently, SpaceX is building all on their own, and they don't need us to help them. Besides, just support from the public.
So just to touch on what Jennifer was talking about, the SLS is the Space Launch System. It's a rocket
Yes.
system that NASA has been developing for, it seems like, and I don't mean to be a negative Nancy here, but far too long. It seems too long to me. And they've spent a ton of money on it, but it is a spectacular vessel. Do you know anything about the SLS or its future, or?
They're still working on it. I had the opportunity to speak with some folks from NASA last year, and they're all planning on using the SLS. They all have very high hopes for the SLS. Unfortunately, it does come down to funding, but currently they're all in for the SLS and are pretty sure that it will happen in the future.
We definitely hope to see it. It would be another fantastic feat.
Yes.
This is a different launch. We're getting to the very end of this, but this is a different launch for a lot of people. A lot of people who live around the Space Coast, who are used to just going out there and watching these. I know I saw tons of live feeds and pictures, and
Yep.
a lot of my friends who are in the space community who went anyway. But this was a feed where people have been getting used to, because of our current the pandemic situation. They've been used to sitting at home and watching live streams. And watching stuff done from home, that I think this launch had a lot of hype that came from that. That came because people are already like primed to watch live streams because of what's been going on. But I do wonder about the future. Do you think that this would have like a positive effect on future launches, because so many people probably logged in to see this launch from home, unlike they probably have never done before?
I really hope it does. Launches are amazing things to watch. Even as my sister watched it earlier, she's a music major, and she was not originally not going to watch it, and then she did. It was a different experience for her. She's amazing. She'll probably watch this later. But it's really for everybody. And so I'm really hoping that since the pandemic has happened, people can continue to watch launches, because they actually happen a lot more than you may think. I know there are apps out there that tell you when launches are going to happen. Most of them are satellites, but same thing. It's not a human, but it is a satellite, and it's really interesting to watch the launch. You'll be able to learn more about the launch terms, about what you're expecting from a launch, and I really hope that people continue to watch it, because that will really be the support that the whole world needs in order to really continue advancing our technology through space.
Fantastic. So I have to ask, I know how I watch these. I know how to keep up with these missions. I know what I do to watch crewed launches. And this is not my first crewed launch to watch on the internet. I've seen tons and tons and tons of the Soyuz missions get launched online. But do you have a recommendation for people who maybe are watching this right now live, or maybe they want to? Maybe they're watching this video a month from now, and they're wondering, how can I watch launches, or where do I go to keep up with these launches? Is there a specific site? Do you use Facebook? Do you use Twitter? Do you use a website like Spaceflight Now? What can you recommend to them?
So I have a little different stuff, because I actually have a lot of aerospace things I follow that you would have to subscribe to, and that's usually where I find them. But I do know you can watch. AIAA's sends me an email every day, so I get to see what's up in space every time.
We'll communicate, just for the people watching. I need to interrupt Jennifer for a moment.
Yes.
We will communicate with this, guys, and we will post those in the comments of this video. So if you're watching this post, or after we've already finished the live stream, and you were like, "Yeah, I do want to know," look in the comments. We're gonna drop a bunch of links in there afterwards. We'll talk with Jennifer and get it posted up.
But mostly NASA TV. SpaceX will always live stream their launch. As far as I know, they do it every time. YouTube, you can just type in launch live stream, or even on Google, and you should be able to find something pretty easily.
All right. Well, fantastic. You guys heard it here. I want to go ahead and thank you, Jennifer, for coming and doing this with us.
Thank you.
you're welcome. Glad to have you on and to hear your perspective as somebody a little bit more in the field, or in the area of research. We'll say, as you're still
Yes.
a graduate student. But yeah, thank you to everybody who came into the stream and had conversation with us. We appreciate you for that, no doubt, and hope to hear more successes from our Demo 2 launch.
Yes.
That being said, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you guys in the future.
Bye, everybody.